Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Unfucking Your CX. I am your host, Zack Hamilton, and I'm super excited about our guest today. Jen and I just recently kind of connected on LinkedIn and have been engaged. She's got an awesome newsletter and podcast herself, and she's an industry veteran. Jen, welcome to the hot seat.
Thanks, Zach. As you know, I feature your podcast in my newsletter quite a lot, so I'm glad to be here.
The question is, are you going to feature yourself in your own newsletter in the podcast?
Yeah, that's so meta. Love that. I mean,
Right
I
on.
do feature my own podcast in my own newsletter too, so there's that.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I look forward to your newsletter because I can't always keep track of all the podcasts. And I actually found your newsletter when I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't feel so inspired with different podcasts lately. And so I love how you break out just the 3 to 5 minute clips, like watch them. So I actually find myself just going down your newsletter on Saturdays when I'm drinking like my coffee in the morning and just tuning into those clips. So thank you for taking the time to
Yeah,
doing that.
for sure. I started it because, well, I mean, because I'm doing brand marketing for Support Man, which is our
Yeah.
QA tool. But the idea came to me because I do listen to podcasts, and a lot of times it's a lot of words and not a lot of content.
Yes.
And then every once in a while, I'd come across, oh, this is a great tidbit, but people aren't going to find this because it's buried in, a long podcast or just so many podcasts. So I really enjoy finding those gems and sharing them. I'm
Yeah,
glad it's landing for at least somebody.
absolutely. Well, thank you. I know, Jen, so you're a veteran. You love this industry. Before we get into your topic though, set the scene for us. Like where's that place for you where you just love to have a spicy conversation?
You mean like an actual physical location?
Yeah, like is it a pub? Is it your favorite
Yeah,
restaurant?
coffee shop.
Ooh, coffee shop. What's your
100%.
favorite?
Yeah,
Do you have a
absolutely. I
favorite
have a
coffee shop?
regular Saturday coffee shop routine with my 16-year-old. So I'm always having spicy conversations there because I have a teenager.
Oh, you get all the tea with your coffee.
Exactly. Yeah.
My daughter would probably look at me right now and be like, Dad, you're so cringe.
Yeah.
Do not
We don't
use
have to tell them. They don't listen to our podcasts.
They won't. They actually will not because of the unfucking piece. They're like, your podcast is cringe, Dad. Can't you just call it something else?
That's great.
But Jen, you were burning on a topic. I'm so ready to hear what is making you cringe the most in either customer or employee or product experience right now.
Yeah. This is I think a hot take. So and it's for me it started this week. I heard about there's an organization that is advocating for the rights of AI. It's called UFAIR, United Something AI Rights. The thing that burns my butter is the way we think about AI as if it's actually intelligence, right? Like, I think to me, and of course, I'm not a machine learning expert, right? I don't know, but it definitely seems to me artificial intelligence is a misnomer. It's not actually computing as intelligence would, it's computerized biomimicry. So an AI bot spits out an answer. It's not answering your question, it's an answer as if a human would answer that question. It's just computing ones and zeros into something. And I think a lot of us have slipped into a mindset where we've watched a lot of sci-fi, right? And there's a lot of philosophical debate around like, what would we do if we created sentient beings and would they have rights? And that's not what this is at all. I just think we've all gotten confused because we're calling it AI.
Yeah, it's so interesting. The first time I heard really about AI and like the rise of it, I couldn't help but just think about the film I, Robot,
Yeah.
with Will Smith. But it's so interesting. Of course, I use AI in everything like day to day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
And so I've really been a student of AI lately because to your point, every brand now is just like, I need agentic
Mm-hmm.
CX. I need agentic CX. And it's almost like I was in this conversation with the brand to kind of to your point, where the CX leader was like, well, when I launch my agent, talking about almost like it was a human being. When I launch my agent, it's just going to take all these autonomous actions and it's going to think for itself. So I'm not going to have to really do anything.
And that's the problem. That's exactly the problem I'm thinking is if we're thinking about it as this consciousness, then we way overestimate what it can do.
Yeah. Well, and then my other piece was, a lot of what we do, Jen, in customer experience or employee experience or even product experience is really around empathy, right? So empathy, when you think about that human design and those types of things. And so one of the questions I asked was, well, how are you going to keep empathy in the design of your agent when, to my knowledge, agents aren't feeling right now?
Right. No, they're not. And they're not going to. That's not what this is.
I mean, it's so I'm with you here. I'm curious your thoughts. Why all of a sudden, though, are we misinterpreting agents almost as if they are just a human being?
I mean, I think it's, I dropped that line about we've all seen too much sci-fi, and you mentioned iRobot, but I think we have been primed to think of AI as sentient, as a thing that's going to act on its own and that's going to have feelings, and we need to think about it that way. And it makes sense because a lot of the inventions we have today, like iPhones, for example, were first envisioned in sci-fi, whether that was movies or novels. And so we have this sort of rolling technology front that happens first in our fiction. So it makes sense that we would think that way. And I think a lot of people don't, myself included, don't think developer language first, right? And so I really had to dig in to really start to think, oh, wait a minute, I need to not be thinking of this as a person. In fact, my boyfriend uses Claude a lot, and he uses the pronouns he, him, and I'm always like, it's an it, right? Like it's a thing. We're going to use the its pronouns for the AI bot because it's not in any way. But I think that's part of it. It's easy for us to slip into. I also think a lot of people are lonely. We're a very lonely culture, and it's helpful to have somebody, like feels like somebody. To one of my first interactions with AI was I was on a plane and I could see between the seats in front of me this guy talking to ChatGPT, and I could only catch snippets as much as I was trying to see it all. But like he was just talking about his relationship to ChatGPT and getting these mimicry of empathy right back, and a lot of people are approaching it that way because a lot of people just don't have someone to talk to. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is another great example of, one, just the diverse use cases that AI can help support us with. And I think for me, when I got asked this question a couple months ago when I was on another podcast, and they said, "Hey, if you were to go back into retail, what would your team look like?" And so, I said, look, my team would probably be more agents than actual team members, but I would ultimately have a team of agents who are responsible, looking at the different kind of business metrics. But then I would have team members, actual humans that stayed in the loop, right? And so they were constantly calibrating the agents. They were kind of scoring them on the strength of that decision that was made, giving them feedback on those specific decisions, being the empathy layer for it. And I think, I don't know, maybe I'm not seeing the full picture, but I don't see this 100% autonomous agentic CX
Oh yeah, for sure.
for a very long time.
Yeah, well, there was an MIT study this week or last week that came out that showed that 95% of the AI pilots that companies have started have no revenue value. There's been really no benefit to them. And I think that's true. We're amplifying customer support specialists. And, in that I might be a specialist who manages an AI agent, and that agent can do, I don't know, 1,000 conversations a day where I could do 100, right? And that might amplify, but I think it'll be a long time before there's no human in the mix, if ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other piece of it too, and I keep trying to explain this to different brands, is like, look, I understand your vision is you want fully autonomous agents. If your organization isn't already kind of working in that, very systemic approach,
Mm,
and you're not making these decisions in live time as quickly as an agent is going to demand for you, you turn an agent on, it's only going to reveal the chaos. because ultimately you're going to have to continuously fine tune and calibrate, and it's going to force you to make decisions at rapid pace and scale that your organization just doesn't have the capability or skill set for. That's been built, that muscle hasn't been built. And so first you have to almost think about it as, let's build the system and the capability and the skill sets internally, and then we just continuously evolve it until it becomes maybe autonomous in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, an AI bot can't make a dysfunctional organization functional. It's just not going to happen. I mean, it goes back to, when I work a lot with knowledge bases because that's what Tetra, the company I work for, does. Even though I'm more in support man right now, and it's like a knowledge base. If you implement an AI agent, but your knowledge base is a mess, what is it even going to use to answer those questions?
Yeah. Yeah, it before we get to your player tips, like I just had this experience not too long ago where I was following up on an order and I got back, sorry, we're having shipping delays due to COVID. And I thought,
Wait a minute.
25, please, Lord, let's not experience this COVID thing again. So I actually reached out to the director of CX on LinkedIn, and I gave him a screenshot, and I said, hey, you might want to check up on your knowledge base or your FAQs because it seems like what's being pulled from just hasn't been updated.
Oh yeah.
But to your point, the agent will only be as good as the data it has.
Yeah, exactly. That might be my first player tip is just make sure your knowledge base is up to date.
I think that's so critical too. Like, and I'm curious, just from your point of view, Jen, like how often should brands be updating their knowledge base compared to how often are they?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of companies don't dedicate man hours to that. I don't know how often I've definitely worked with companies who it feels like they've never updated it, right? But I don't even think frequency is, I think if you're doing it well, frequency isn't even really a thing about the whole knowledge base. It's constant. It's continuous. You have a knowledge manager, an SME who owns maybe 100 docs, and it's their job for them to just always be up to date. And of course, it looks different in different companies, but everyone who knows, who has an expertise area, needs to be involved in documentation for sure. So constant. My answer is constant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. What's the second player tip?
This is a little bit more for, we're all using, like you said, AI. I use ChatGPT a lot. So it's a little bit more for anything that you might be doing. I was just creating a report for my team on the support driven expo that I went to. And it took me a long time to start doing this, but I've started creating a GPT just for short-term use. So what I've found is when I'm talking to ChatGPT in a conversation, it tends to kind of forget directions as I scroll and get more in there. But if I create a GPT, which is so easy, it's just conversational, right?
Yeah.
That GPT locks in the directions that I've given it. And so then it won't forget. So if I'm doing something that's long, like creating a report or something I do repeatedly, I just go ahead and create a GPT for it because then I don't have to keep giving it instructions. And then two or three, rather, other player tip is whatever you're doing with AI agents on a support team, you've got to let people opt out and just get to a human. I think, and there's a trend to kind of charge people for that now with like premium support is how you get to a human. I think that's a bad idea, uh, especially because it doesn't work as well as we want it to right now. So people could get stuck in loops.
Yeah, absolutely. I love your both player tips. Player tip two, even as I'm thinking, as you're explaining them, like if I think about just our agents, right? Think about how we're going to have to calibrate them and train them to do some
Mm-hmm.
simple tasks that we're doing. And right, and that nuance of doing a report, well, instead of just doing it in a chat, do it in, a GPT. And I agree with you on the third point. If I have to call into the contact center, I try to deflect and go into chat as much as I can. I loathe the contact center. And the contact center leader, former leader, I always have to remind myself it's not the agent's fault. It's not the agent's
Mm-hmm.
not the agent's fault. But like how often do you have to scream at the IVR, just give me a human being?
And that's not even related to AI. That's been going on for decades. The IVR has been a nightmare.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like that's the same thing with agents is it's like, if I get locked into an agent, how easy would it be for me to switch channels to get to a human being?
Yeah. Yeah. And what are the churn ramifications of that? You know, people who get so frustrated. I think there's something like 35% of people just never want to talk to an AI bot. And I think too that's something that we get really stuck in the tech world is we think AI, AI, AI. We're seeing it everywhere, we're hearing it everywhere. We forget that there are people who don't work on computers. Their whole life is not on a computer like ours, and they may not even really think about or want to be involved with AI. And those are often our customers, right? And so they're just like, what even is this? I just want a human. And I think we're out of touch with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jen, this has been such a fantastic conversation about
Yeah,
AI.
thank you.
I'm gonna have to remember the pronouns of it when I talk about Claude
It.
myself. So I'll definitely give a chuckle around that. But Jen, if any of our listeners want to continue the conversation with you or just engage with you, where's the best place to find you?
LinkedIn. I'm for some reason now on there all the time posting and hopefully creating some value or at least being funny maybe. So yeah, I love to connect. Anybody who connects with me on LinkedIn, I'm always just like, yes, more friends. So
Yeah,
please
and
do.
I'll tag Jen's newsletter
Yes, please.
to ours because it's fantastic. I love it.
Thank
Once
you.
a week, Jen comes out. She highlights some really just mic drop moments in different podcasts. So she's doing the
Thank you.
listening for you, and it's a fantastic one. I get a tremendous amount of value from it. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you. That's so good to hear. I'm about to launch into working on that for this week now.
Totally get it. Well, Jen, thank you for coming to the hot seat.
Yeah, thank you.
Bring back another moment that's making me cringe.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk soon. Cheers.
Okay.